Hello, this is Crystal Racing here with the top 10 worst F1 drivers of 2019. Starting off with 11th place, Kimi Raikkonen, who started off this season brilliantly, scoring at least 7 times in the first 12 races. And I have to say, after Hungary, Kimi was one of the top 5 drivers in my own personal best drivers list. So at that point in the season, Kimi Raikkonen was absolutely outperforming that Alfa Romeo. By that point, by Hungary, he had scored 31 points and he was solidly in the top 10 of the championship. You know, I could go on all day long how good he was. I mean, he qualified 5th at Germany, for crying out loud. But of course, because of the launch control thing that Alfa Romeo used, he lost 7th place and could have had another 6 points. But from Belgium onwards, unfortunately, his season took a tumble when he had that first lap collision with Verstappen, crashed out in qualifying in Monza, then of course had that tyre gaff during the race where he had to serve a penalty, then of course in Singapore he crashed out with Kvyat, made that false start in Russia, and then of course he had a mechanical failure at Mexico, and to be fair, he did do fairly well at America where he nearly scored a point, but where he finished 32nd ahead of Giovinazzi. But then, of course, at Brazil, he finally had his best result of the season, scoring 12 points in P4, albeit it was a massive fluke. But nevertheless, because of his poor second half of the season, Kimi Raikkonen misses out on a place in the top 10. 12th place was Nico Hulkenberg. Yep. It seems mental that Nico Hulkenberg will not be in F1 next year, but if you look at his results, he's finished behind Kimi Raikkonen, and he has been easily outperformed by Daniel Ricciardo so far this season. Earlier on in the season, Hulkenberg did have the upper hand, but a lot of it seemed to be more down to the fact that Ricciardo couldn't adjust to the fact that he had to brake earlier in Renault compared to the more responsive Red Bull Danny had been driving at Red Bull in years gone by. But as the season went on, as Ricciardo became acclimatised to the Renault, it was quite clear that Hulkenberg was the second driver in the team. And of course, although having said that, it did come as a bit of a surprise that Esteban Ocon was announced as his replacement during the summer break. You know, I've got to say this, whilst I do feel sorry for Nico Hulkenberg leaving the sport, having had a fairly decent career in the midfield, he isn't really an outstanding prospect anymore. He is 32 years old, but having said that though, he's failed to score a single podium in over 170 races, and there have been times like, the 2 Baku races, and of course this year's German Grand Prix, where he simply threw his chances of getting a podium down the bin of his own making. So, whilst I'd be sorry to see Hulkenberg gone, it's not like, there have been talented drivers like Ralf Schumacher and Felipe Nasser who've been shown the door pretty earlier on in their careers. 13th place is Sebastian Vettel. Well, I know some Vettel fans will be banging the table in absolute shock horror, but let's be honest here, folks. It has been a seriously poor year for Vettel. Yep, the car hasn't been good enough, but Vettel has arguably been even worse, spinning out at Bahrain, making that mistake at Canada where, even though I think it was unfair for the stewards to slap a 5-second penalty and strip him in a race win, he also messed up by crashing into Verstappen at Britain, had that ridiculous spin at Monza where he drove back into traffic and nearly sent Lance Stroll into the barriers at over 120 miles an hour. How did he not get a race ban for that? I will never know. And then, of course, there was that ridiculous collision with Leclerc at Brazil. To be fair, where once again Vettel's inability to go wheel to wheel with opponents on track was exposed all over again. And yes, I know he had a few bright moments like winning at Singapore thanks to him, putting in faster laps in the pit stop sequence, and outracing Leclerc a few times, but let's be honest, whilst he definitely should have won at Russia if it wasn't for that ridiculous pre-race agreement, this has been one of the worst seasons I've ever seen from Vettel, with the exception of 2014. 14th place is Danny Kvyat. Over the course of this season, he's had a solid comeback to Formula One, but of course, when Albon and Gasly were at their best, he was clearly second best to both of them. The truth is, Kvyat is probably destined to be a career midfield driver. Yes, he had that fantastic podium at Germany, but that did come because of the fact his pit team put him on a brilliant pit strategy by putting him on dry tyres so early on, and the track dried out pretty quickly. But truth be told, he's been very much well and truly beaten by both Albon and Gasly, and frankly, he's probably, I don't think he'll be at AlphaTauri for 2021, and he'll be having to look at a midfield team like Horst or maybe Alfa Romeo for 2021. 15th place was Pierre Gasly, who was absolutely abysmal in the first half of the season with Red Bull. I mean, yes, I know it's Max Verstappen, but to get outpaced by 8/10 of a second on average is just ridiculous. I know the car was made for Max's taste, but, Pierre really underperformed. And, it was only in Britain where, he looked anywhere near close Max's pace. And apparently that was due to the fact that he used Max's setup to get close. And of course, thanks to Max getting punted off the road by Vettel, he almost certainly would have not outraced Max that day. Just in the same way, if it wasn't for Kevin Magnussen's crash in Q2 at Canada, there would have been no way Gasly would have outqualified Max, because, let's be honest, Gasly got destroyed, absolutely obliterated. But since coming back to Toro Rosso / AlphaTauri, Gasly has been absolutely fantastic, and that second place at Interlagos was well deserved. He was dominating the midfield all race, and yes, it was a fluke result, but he well and truly deserved it, and he held off Lewis Hamilton to put his car in second place. Fantastic. 16th place is Lance Stroll. Yeah. What else can I say? It's Lance Stroll. I mean, did anyone expect any better? I not really, no, but yes, sometimes he did show flashes of speed, like at Germany. I know partly the only reason why he finished P4 was because of a fantastic pit strategy gamble by the team. He looked quick at Baku, but of course he got beat by Perez. Outraced Perez at Canada. Looked like he was going to score points at Monza until, of course, a certain Sebastian Vettel yeeted him off the road for no reason. But let's be honest, I've not got a lot to say about Lance Stroll. And let's be honest, it seems as if he's probably going to be in F1 as long as he really wants to be there, or either when his dad decides to turn around to him and say, you know what, son, I want another driver in the team. 17th place was Antonio Giovinazzi. Look, I know he's not been racing for 2 years, but my God, what a disappointing year he's had, to be honest. Whilst in the second half of the season, yes, he outraced and outqualified Kimi. There's a lot of doubts over whether I think Giovinazzi is going to have much of an F1 career after 2020. In the first half of the season, I mean, a number of times he was just driving around in no man's land was quite frightening. I know some people, Alfa Romeo, said that he was struggling with the Pirelli tyres, but in the races he would just drop away like a stone. I mean, even if he outqualified Kimi would just fly past him in the first 2 laps, and then after that he would just drop behind Kimi by like 2 or 3 tenths a lap. And I don't want to sit there and slag Giovinazzi off, but there were some silly mistakes, like, I don't know, colliding with Kvyat at Bahrain, hitting Kubica in the last race at Abu Dhabi, and then, of course, spinning off on the last lap at Belgium when he was in 9th place. And look, I know he had his bright spot when he led the race for about 4 laps at Singapore, but, you know, he's got to do better, to be honest. Then, of course, we're down to the worst three drivers. Kevin Magnussen is in 18th place. Am I being harsh in putting Magnussen this low? I think so, but the trouble is, though, whilst the horse is a bad car, he's had some very iffy races all over the place. It's not been the most amazing season for Magnussen, despite the fact that his teammate has been even much worse. You know, bright spots included him finishing 6th at Australia, and then of course finishing 7th at Spain. But apart from that, you know, he had a few extra point finishes. But, you know, when he crashed out in Canada in qualifying and then complained about the car during the race, he just sat there and thought, my goodness me, that horse team has got a serious problem. And I don't want to comment too much because, you know, it's really hard to judge a driver who's driving a car that keeps eating its tyres. There's not much to say, but, you know, even so, towards the end of the season, he was actually outpaced by Grosjean. And, of course, in 19th place, and the second worst driver of the season, was Romain Grosjean, who inexplicably has a drive at Haas in 2020. He arguably should have been fired at the end of last season after his terrible start to 2018, but you know, Romain Grosjean is still going to be an F1 for 2020, probably most likely due to his technical feedback, as many of his defenders keep saying he has. But in terms of results, what is he really doing, to be honest? I mean, yeah, he had that 7th place finish at Germany, but that was mostly because most of the field crashed out, and of course the two Alfa Romeos had a 30-second penalty slapped on their race times. But, you know, I'm looking at all his results over the year, and frankly, so many times he just put in a 5 out of 10 performance. And, you know, look, I know a lot of you know that I don't particularly like Romain Grosjean that much, but it is now very much getting to the point of why exactly do Haas think they're benefiting having him as one of their drivers at the team when he is clearly getting destroyed by Magnussen? I don't know. And of course, the worst driver this season has been Robert Kubica. Yes, he scored that point at Germany and all that, but frankly, I don't need to go through the whole story again. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to Crystal Racing, and I'll see you again next time.